Thank you, ILSI, for inviting UNIDO. It was my turn to come. I said it up front, I'm not a specialist on artificial intelligence, nor on food. I will do my best to bring you about, is it working, what we are doing in UNIDO, what is the approach we take in UNIDO. We try to work for the SMEs, for industry in developing country. Now, how do we bring these topics to these stakeholders? So let me take you through the mega trends. So I will zoom into the subject like that, and then I will hopefully have the time to take an example. Like my colleague from the IEA, we are devoted to the Sustainable Development Goals. UNIDO, yes, thank you. UNIDO is the custodian of SDG 9. SDG 9, it's about building infrastructure, promoting industrialization, and foster innovation. And we work in relation to all SDGs with the concept of sustainable development, which is to address people, planet, and prosperity in also the different cross-cutting areas such as innovation, investment, quality, standards, and in particular also in trade. We look for inclusive, sustainable industrial development, and in this regard, we put a strong emphasis on sharing prosperity for equal opportunities for all people and in partnership with all stakeholders. Economic competitiveness is at the core of our activities, but we have a lot of work and we are very concerned about the environment via cleaner industrial technologies, circular economy, new production methods, you name it. So UNIDO, and this is what I want to be clear, we are a technical cooperation agency. Yeah, we do analytical work, we do research, but research in relation to the policy advisory, industrial policy, trade, innovation policies. We are more involved in a normative function, but closer to standards. So we are not a regulatory entity, but more promoting voluntary standardization. And in the recent years, like anybody, have been working in relation to building partnerships. Partnerships is part of the SDGs, but partnerships is fundamental to bring our world forward. So the big picture, we can say, is that we have been ongoing mega trends. Climate change is at the core, migration, we had trade disruption. Trade disruption did not happen only at the time of COVID. Trade disruption and technological transformation started before. And we have been seeing what I call a completely disrupt change, a technological transformation that has been changing the world. There are people that are putting question globalization, and this brought about new technologies that are converging, that are emerging. I will not name all this, but one block of this is all the digital technologies, the digital transformation, the biotechnologies, economic in energy and environmental technology, and advanced material. So all these technologies are converging, and how do we approach an entity like the UN? We have been talking about emerging technologies, convergent. Finally, we decided it's about technological transformation of industry, and for industry, that's what we care about. Probably many of you come more from academia, you have different approach to this. We're looking at industry, and also we have been looking at the industrial revolution, in particular in the fourth industrial revolution, where we have seen that in the third industrial revolution, we had already digitalization. But what happened here is the convergence of cyber and physical systems and biotechnology, and the big emergence as data at the core. And this is very important because it's thanks to the data that we will be able to move into the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. And this is the element where we say we are in the process at the company level, at industry level, manufacturing level, data collection, big data, sensor data, to allow the systems build a virtual copy of the reality. So this is very important. So data is helping us to have this copy, and then with the copy to have the systems help people to make decisions. first of all in this problem solving, but then decisions are made not anymore by people, but by the system. And this is where then artificial intelligence comes in, because the cyber physical systems are not only helping the decision making, but are making the decision. And then we have the other process of machine learning and deep learning that is becoming more autonomous. Yeah, and this is why we wanted I wanted to put this context of how to approach it, because then we have back the interoperability, what we call the it's a vision. Industry 4.0 is the smart factory. It doesn't happen. Maybe it exists in some places, and sometimes people ask us, how can you talk about 4.0 and the smart factory if you are talking about Burkina Faso? Well, it is this panacea, this idea where devices, sensor, machine, and people are working and communicating together, and it is happening. It is happening, and this is also where we see, I will not take you through this, all elements and levels, but we have the merging of the physical and virtual, and the fourth level is application to manufacturing. This is what characterizes our activities, and the networking of machine, people, and the resources. So this is the approach we have for smart, for artificial intelligence. And sure, there are a number of benefits because, first of all, this is a driver for innovation. There is a tremendous potential to increase efficiency, and particular resource efficiency, because machines are quicker, procurement processes are faster, resources are used better, and productivity. 25% is on average what we can already link to the increase if you apply these new technologies. There are already also benefits from the demand side. Is the customization. The customization is that the individual production is today, with these new technologies, at the cost of mass production, be it in cars, be it in shoes. You can get all completely adjusted to your desires, to your wishes, and the same is happening already in food. I have seen the companies that mix already your juice according to your demand, and you can do it through a period of time, and you will get the product delivered to your place. All this is happening. And so the 4IR and sustainable development has a tremendous potential, and this is the framework in which UNIDO has started to look at artificial intelligence in relation to the environmental benefits that it can bring, the economic benefits, and the social benefits that relate to the implementation of the circular economy, resource efficiency, reduced carbon emission, tackling the climate change challenge, and reducing waste. The economic benefits are clear. It is about productivity. It is about greater industrial safety. It is about new business model, and also better jobs, more jobs for young people, for women, better food security and safety, and I would say an attempt to have a better and more inclusive world. Let me move into the two elements that we have to enter the business of artificial intelligence, of the new technology. I mentioned before smart agribusiness, and this is, and the other will be the application of AI for the small enterprises. In this, I will take you through the challenge, the solution, how, and the examples we have. And I would like you to be aware that even in UNIDO, this is really at the infant stage. We started only last year to have these discussions. We had an expert group meeting in 2021. This is the result of this expert group meeting. You can have it also. You can view the webinar, and you can see the paper, how we are entering this and the discussions we had and how we are approaching. The challenge is very clear. We will have 10 billion people by 2015, and we are confronted with the biggest challenge ever, which is climate change, and remains climate change. Let me take you the problems we have in relation to soil, to water, to CO2, all the problems we have there that are the depletion of natural resources, and it is interlinked with the agro sector and with food production and with energy production, and also a strong process of urbanization and the relation of young people to this new phenomenon. So agribusiness is changing, is facing so many challenges today, but we can see that these smart technologies, these 4IR technologies, may bring part of the solution, be it artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, cloud computing, you name it, Internet of Things. We consider that there is this potential that precision agriculture, smart agriculture, and as well as 4IR can be bringing these new technologies to improve the efficiency and bring the connection of the unconnected value chains. We have a situation where there is a lot of dots to be connected, yeah, and these new technologies can make it happen. And this is what we call smart agribusiness. And in this expert group meeting we came up with two potential solutions. In a nutshell, it is about improving agribusiness competitiveness through smart technologies. This is a solution for middle-income countries. We're thinking of a framework to develop projects, yeah. And this is when we have basic IT conditions, not only the skills, but infrastructure, investment, and so. And we want to, first of all, do the institutional strengthening and the launching of smart agribusiness solutions. And then the other, which is related more to the rural areas, where we cannot think of applying many technologies. It is mainly about basic digitalization, yeah, where we can bring especially skills development for the people in the rural areas, and also eventually prototyping of basic solutions in order to scale up. And some examples, so this is about having a tailored and very specific solution depending on the context. Some examples of what we're doing is an example from Tunisia is the smart farm mobile, is to improve the breeding and monitoring the evolve of the cattle. And we have also another to optimize the milk production in the same project. The second project example is related to blockchain. This is another technology. It is a readiness assessment for the cocoa value chain in Ghana and for coffee value chain also in Peru. And here again, what we see, I was talking, and last week he was here at the EDD, the Minister of Ghana. He is very concerned that there is too much data going in. Do we really want to share all this data with the consumers? They have problems with social due diligence. They have still child labor. They have still, they say, for quality, it is good. But if you are going to go deeper, and this is what I'm trying to show in this presentation, artificial intelligence is interlinked with the application of other technologies, but it's not only in one area. The social comes in, the environmental comes in. And then we have another program that is more this rural area type of program where we base it on digitalization. But it is interesting to note that even in this more modest program, there are small AI type of solutions that emerge. Yeah, and we help then the startups to come up with their applications that they start to use because they start accumulating data. So this type of programs we are implementing. And the second stream, the last stream of my presentation, relates to a joint work we started with ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, the ITC. There is a group of agencies, maybe you know, Artificial Intelligence for Good. It is a discussion, it is a process how artificial intelligence has to be brought for good, for a better society. And together with Siemens, ISON and DOCRA, we started this process of coming up with some manuals to help SMEs to use these technologies. So this publication is providing the basic guidance how to approach this. We are starting this. We have not yet an example of what to do with it. Just in a nutshell, I would like to share with you. So we had this interagency working group on artificial intelligence, and so it is important. We are just creating this group. While we see that in the standards world there is a lot of standardization going on, but 3 years ago I tried to find a definition, a accepted definition of artificial intelligence, and none of the standards body had an accepted definition yet. Probably today this work of the terminology for artificial intelligence related matters is already achieved, but this process is a process that it's starting at a harmonization level. So here our objective is how can we help SMEs to use this in terms of competitiveness, in terms of sustainability, and in terms of opening their eyes, in opening in the future, how can they benefit from these technologies? Again, this is coincidentally a work only on artificial intelligence, but what we do is we open several technologies and then they can choose whatever this can fit there better. We work also in particular in relation to business development institutions, not directly with the companies. So we are, our beneficiaries are those providing the services, but we obviously have the final beneficiary that are the SMEs. Barriers starting by infrastructure. In the example I gave you on blockchain in Ghana, we went very far, but when it came to connectivity, there are tremendous challenges. Sometimes the challenges are not the connectivity itself, the technology is there, the infrastructure is there, but they cannot afford it. They cannot pay the price constantly and bear the cost of investing in having all this data stream constantly going back and forward. So infrastructure and access to infrastructure is fundamental. As I say, I think the concept is for SMEs and for LDCs and for developing countries, the problem is access to this. Skills, yeah, we are improving. We work a lot on skills and TVT, on training, but this is, I think, where most of the work has to happen. SMEs do not take part in standards process, have not access to standards, have to pay a lot for that. Financial support is not organized so that they can get access. We work, for example, with incubators, small incubators, and through the incubators, we facilitate also the credit lines, but this is still preliminary. This is not policy, and the partnership opportunities are also not mature. I'm talking a lot about Africa, LDC context. Sure, in my continent, in Latin America, it is different. The net of relations among bigger and medium, at least, enterprises is much stronger. So the opportunities to matchmaking are more given through the market. In other contexts, we need to work for that. And I will not take you in detail about the 5-stage pathway that has been created. Is a procedure how to help the companies to approximate the use of this by first assessing their maturity, their readiness to strategize, to find data governance, and this is the big bottleneck is the standard for data, making and then taking the decision of decentralizing decision making. And one concept we have to disrupt is the idea that this is not for small companies. It is possible to not very small companies, but medium companies to utilize this technology when there is the technology and the tools and the methods are available. So we really believe we had this week we are having the launch of the innovation management system standard in Vienna together with ISO. What the role of UNIDO is to show that innovation management systems are appropriate for SMEs. So this is the approach we are having. And we did also within this publication a SWOT analysis for the agribusiness. So seeing that there is definitely a big problem I just mentioned, lack of data, the input accuracy for algorithm learning, but also that the efficiency of farm production can grow, food security. We can have a reduced use of fertilizers and pesticides, food and quality standards. And here the important is to look at this link to the climate. And for us this is important because my colleague from the IEA, we know finding resources for technical cooperation is very difficult, but there are resources available for combating climate change. So if we can create these linkages, this is important. I'm trying to show you that we also face very practical, very pedestrian challenges when we try to do our work. The opportunities, sure, in the future we need to reduce the food waste. We need to have better early warning system to increase the global food supply. We know through the crisis now in the world, the big food security crisis that we have, but the potential is there. Most of the arable land is in Africa, it's not in Europe. It is just that we need to mobilize the investment. So we need to mobilize the technologies, we need to mobilize the investments, the opportunities are there. We need to be also aware of the threats, the risk of incorrect predictions in low-scale business, and certainly the asymmetries between small and large farms. So in relation to this work on the SMEs, what we recommend is a phased approach to really bring the SMEs to have this deep understanding of what are the challenges, what they want to do, what is their context and what are the challenges, but then see what the potential is to start approximating the use of AI, and now to move from the theory to the applications, which is where UNIDO and the business support institution can help and get inspired and get motivated. So to finalize, if you allow, if the time still allows for a couple of minutes, I would like to elaborate on an example that is not in relation to food, but it is a very good example of how we're trying to use artificial intelligence and the application with it. This is the application of satellite and drone-based imagery and the use of AI for bush processing, for debushing actually. So in Namibia, we have a challenge that there is an invasive species, acacia related, that has been changing the landscape and has invaded. And the project was about debushing and use this bush to be converted into charcoal, into energy, but also in animal feed. So this is how we started. But then it turned out that there was more to be done, and this was the landscape as it looks now with this acacia bush, yeah. And this is how it looked. This is with the bush encroachment, and this was before. They had farming and they had nice trees and there was white space. We will not revert back, but we need to see how we can change to the positive the situation. So we started with the more economic aspects. It was to reduce the size to more efficient animal feed meals. The meals were reduced. You see the big difference there. So this was one action in the project. A second action in this project was this charcoal production. And really, this was very good because this is a zero emission production of chemical, pharma, and domestic use. And also they started to use for the small needs they have solar panels of energy. So this really brought about this to the rural areas. And then we started to see how we can use the drones, and they started to utilize the drones to see where you had more concentration of bush, and it was to identify where the bushers can concentrate their efforts because the density is higher. So we started with that, and then we also managed to get the satellite images. And then with the drone images and the satellite images and the available data, we could create the basis for the application of AI. Is this? It got stuck.
No, it's just a. You want to play a movie?
No, it's not a movie. Just the next slide. Okay. So with the first elements, we started to have only the visual separation of the physical items through color coding and other visual elements. So we could have already some additional data to hint to the debushers where to go. Over time, this was added with textural analysis in the top of the visual interpretation. First, it was only the colors, and then the texture, and then on that basis, they started to utilize prediction of where this will come. And also, even further, it was developing the code so that you can really see in the future where you will have the biggest. I would like also to mention that in the next level, it was about looking at the crown of the tree. This is the crown of the tree. And because you know how big the crown is today, you can predict how long it will be later. The only purpose to showing you this picture is to say the roots of this acacia go 25 meters down the soil. Can you imagine what it makes to the water management? So if you can cut this acacia, you are doing a lot of good to the other trees, to the other biodiversity. So this is a project that is interrelated, and sure, then you have all this data that you collect, and you start then, because you know how many trees you will have, what is the volume, what is the total area, you start commercializing this data. So this is a very good example of a more integrated project. And then what we can do with a dashboard that is through an application for mobile devices utilized by the debushers to improve their efficiency. So this is our example. And in a nutshell is we are at the beginning of using these technologies. The potential is there. We need to work long and hard. And again, I thank for the opportunity, Stefan, to inviting UNIDO to this very interesting event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Where big data and artificial intelligence can lead to, this is really fascinating. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you for a wonderful talk. I'm especially interested in your 5 steps on the governance step, because for global adoption and a reduced cost, there has to be a discussion about data sharing and metadata standards, and a lot of countries don't agree how much data to share and when to share it. But I think sharing this sort of whole transparency package allows it to be rapidly adopted. So I was wondering what your efforts are in those steps.
Certainly, with that question, opening the discussion to ethical. Thank you. With that question, you certainly opened the discussion to another dimension, which would be ethical consideration and the issue of data localization, which in relation to GDRP is an important development. But what is important is that data so far is understood to remain at the country level, not to be given away. There is a tendency of that, and in UNIDO we have the approach to data protection, to privacy protection, and certainly when we are talking about data in industry, we're talking about private data. So our approach would be the principle of protecting the data belonging to the industry, belonging to the small company, belonging to the individual. And this is where I say we will go into a discussion of ethicals. Thank you.